appeared in the mirror, a figure, black, faceless, waiting. Adaobi pulled back in terror. "Who are you?" she finally cried out. "What's happened to me?" The figure whispered in an icy voice, "You should never have said yes to that man. He sold you, and now you belong to us." The mirror cracked. Adaobi screamed, and suddenly she found herself in another place. On her wedding day, she discovers that she is already dead. This is a very great story. Be very focused. It all started one Saturday morning in a 5-star hotel. Horns blared outside, luxury cars, cameras, flowers, everything was ready. Adaobi was going to marry the richest man in the neighborhood. But that morning, as she opened her eyes in her bridal suite, a chill ran through her body. She tried to get up, but her feet didn't touch the ground. Her face had vanished from the mirror. She tried to open the door, but no one seemed to see her. That's when she understood. She was dead, and yet she was still there. The ceremony was about to begin in 30 minutes. The groom was already downstairs in his white suit. The hall was full, the cameras were waiting, and the guests were drinking juice. But no one knew the bride was already a lifeless soul. When she descended the stairs, everything seemed to stop. The musicians ceased playing, the lights flickered, but no one looked up at her. No one except Ikenna, the groom. He saw her and took a step back. No, it can't be," he said. He recognized her, and it wasn't the joy you see in the eyes of a man who discovers his wife in her wedding dress. No, it was fear. Adaobi approached and stopped. Her voice was a blur. "You thought I was going to disappear forever. You thought you could erase me, betray me, murder me, and still marry me." The confused priest turned to Ikenna. "Sir, are you all right?" But Ikenna collapsed. The guests began to murmur. Some went out to their phones. Something was wrong. The atmosphere was becoming icy. A woman screamed. The lights went out, the doors closed. No one could get out. And then the truth began to emerge. Ikenna, the wealthy groom, wasn't who everyone thought he was. Adaobi had come to demand justice, and she wasn't alone. Adaobi floated above the ground, invisible to all. Outside, the music was already playing. The guests were taking pictures under the golden tents in front of the hotel. The champagne trembled in the warmth of the sun, but in the bridal suite, everything was cold, frozen. Adaobi stared at her hands. She no longer recognized herself. She knew she was truly outside of her body. No mirror reflected her shape anymore. She screamed and screamed, but no sound came out. No one could hear her. Then she heard a knock. "Adaobi, it's time," shouted a lady in waiting. 3 women entered, searching for Adaobi with their eyes, but they saw nothing. They crossed the room, brushed against her shoulder without reacting, and left. "Maybe she's already in the hall. She would have at least left a note," one said. The girls went back outside, worried. Adaobi, alone, began to cry. Her tears were silent, but she floated without ever touching the ground. Then a shadow appeared in the mirror, a figure, black, faceless, waiting. Adaobi pulled back in terror. "Who are you?" she finally cried out. "What's happened to me?" The figure whispered in an icy voice, "You should never have said yes to that man. He sold you, and now you belong to us." The mirror cracked. Adaobi screamed, and suddenly she found herself in another place. A dark room, candles, a circle of fire, and in the center a photograph of her with a cross drawn in blood. The air was thick as tar. Every breath Adaobi took was a burn. She had been thrown into a nightmare. A male voice echoed, "For riches and power, a pure soul must be given up on the day of the wedding." She froze. 3 hooded figures circled around her. A moving picture was shown on a stone wall. The image was blurry, but she recognized the place. This hotel, the basement beneath her feet. A man stood in the center, shirtless and trembling, his eyes filled with fear. It was the groom, Ikenna. "I give what is most precious to me," he said, his voice breaking. "I give her heart, I give her soul. I give you the bride." The circle of fire grew around him. A secret priest, his face covered in ash, stepped forward and stuck a pin into Adaobi's photo. "The pact is sealed. You will receive what you desire, but know this. If she discovers the truth, the curse could come back to you." The image faded. Adaobi fell to the ground, but her heart was still pounding. She began to tremble and sob. She didn't understand. She had loved this man. She had believed in him. She saw herself a week before. Ikenna was quiet, distant, absent. He said he was working late, that he had to finish a big deal. "You were the price," a voice whispered behind her. Adaobi turned around quickly. The strange soul was there, the same faceless spirit she had seen in the bridal suite. But this time it was dressed in white. "Who are you?" Adaobi screamed. The spirit held out a hand to her. "I am the one he was supposed to offer before you, but I ran away, and they killed me. My soul has been here for 22 years. But you still have a chance." A chance for what? For justice. A loud thud shook the walls. She found herself back in the hotel, in the main hall this time. The guests were there in their festive clothes, women in green cloth, men in white robes with gold. Children were running, cameras were filming. But the groom was not visible. Adaobi waited. She saw Chisholm, her twin sister, who had just arrived. Same walk, same smile, same eyes, but full of worry.
"Where is my sister?"
Chisholm cried.
"Why isn't anyone answering me?"
One of the bridesmaids approached her. "We can't find her." Chisholm stepped back in horror, disappeared on her wedding day. Chisholm stopped. She felt something, a presence, a coldness. Her eyes looked straight toward the stairs, where Adaobi was floating. "Ada," she called. Silence. A wave of icy air swept through the hall. "Ada, are you there?" And in that silence, for the first time, Adaobi whispered, and Chisholm heard her. "It's him. It's Ikenna." Chisholm staggered. "Tell me what to do." Chisholm stood frozen in the middle of the hall. The people around her moved, talked, even laughed. No one seemed to notice the change in the air, the heavy feeling, the sense of something bad that filled the room. But she knew her sister was there, dead but alive. She could hear her. "He sold me, Chisholm. Ikenna made a pact." Chisholm looked back toward the stairs. She couldn't see anything, but she could feel it. Adaobi was there somewhere, and if she was stuck between life and death, it was because she needed help. And if there was justice in this world, it had to be done now. She ran to the empty bridal suite. She felt the cold. The flowers were dying, the mirrors were cracking, the bed still perfectly made. A smell of blood and perfume hung in the air. She knelt and closed her eyes. "Ada, talk to me. I'm here. I'm with you." A shock, a flash, and suddenly Chisholm fell into a trance. She saw through her sister's eyes. Memories flooded her mind. The mirror without a face, the stopped hands, the locket, the circle of blood. She saw it all at once, and when she opened her eyes, her heart was beating so hard she knew it was going to break. She stood up, not from pain, but from anger. "He won't get away with this." She ran out of the room. She rushed to the hall where the guests were starting to talk loudly. "Where is the bride? What's going on? Is this a trick?" Then the curtain opened. Ikenna, the groom, appeared, a smile on the surface, fear in his eyes. He slowly climbed the stage, microphone in hand, and spoke. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to tell you that my wife has disappeared. There may have been a problem. The police are coming, but thank you for coming." Noise and crying arose. A woman fainted. People cried out in shock, but in the confusion, Chisholm stepped onto the stage. She grabbed the microphone. The room fell silent. Ikenna tried to take the microphone from her, angry. "Chisholm, you're crazy. This is not the time. At least show some respect for the family." But Chisholm stepped back, and in a quiet but strong voice, she said, "He killed her. It was him. Ikenna killed my sister to get rich. He sold her soul. I saw the ritual. I saw the pact." A chill ran through the room. Someone in the crowd said, "Is this a joke? She's making it up." But an old aunt slowly stood up, her eyes wide, saying, "Wait, if what she says is true, then Ikenna has something hidden. Search the inside pocket of his jacket." Silence. Ikenna turned pale. "Which pocket? I have nothing. Show me." "Search it," Chisholm shouted. A cousin of the groom, a big man named Obinna, came forward, grabbed Ikenna, and despite his fighting, he searched the inside pocket. There, he pulled out a red locket covered in strange marks with Adaobi's picture inside it. The room filled with screams. "Jesus' blood! What kind of evil is this?" "It's a sacrifice." But suddenly all the lights went out. Only one candle came back on, and in that light a white figure appeared on the platform. Adaobi. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned like fire. Everyone could see her. "It is I," she said in a calm voice. "I have come from the grave, and I have come for the truth." Ikenna shook. He was looking at this woman who had loved him and who he had hurt. The priest fainted. The light returned. Chisholm came closer to Ikenna. Tell everyone what you did to her." And then Ikenna, crying like a child, began to scream, "Yes, it's true. I made the pact. I gave her soul. I wanted to become rich. I couldn't stand being poor anymore. They told me I needed a pure soul, so I chose her." The crowd made a sound like thunder. At that moment, the locket burst into flames in Obina's hands. A wave of power ripped through the room. The ceiling cracked, sparks flew, and the guests ran away, screaming. The grand wedding hall was falling apart, and Adaobi, the dead bride, came closer to Ikenna. She held out her hand. "You killed me, Ikenna. You broke love." And with an icy breath, she said, "Now it's your turn to feel pain." Her finger touched Ikenna's head, and his body fell down, stiff, lifeless. Smoke came from his mouth. A bad smell filled the room, but Adaobi was becoming brighter. Her face got color back, her body got its shape back. Chisholm came closer. The two sisters looked at each other for the first time in a long time. Adaobi smiled softly. "I don't have much time left." Chisholm was crying. "Don't go, stay with me. There must still be a way." And with a final look, Adaobi disappeared. The next morning, the city was on fire. News stations, radio shows, blogs, TV channels, everything was talking about one thing. The rich man's wedding that turned into an evil ritual. A strange bride appeared as a ghost before 300 guests. The boss of a big company was found dead in his wedding suit. Blurry pictures of the hall that had broken apart kept showing up, and people kept asking, who was that woman? What really happened in that 5-star hotel? And where is the bride's body? Because yes, Adaobi's body still hadn't been found. Chisholm hadn't slept for 3 days. She lay on Adaobi's bed in their family home. She had locked all the doors and turned off her phone. The family called and called, but she didn't care. She kept seeing Adaobi, sometimes in reflections, sometimes in dreams, once even in the steam from the bathroom mirror. Always silent, always with that sad look, but never for more than a second. And every time Chisholm reached out her hand, she disappeared. "You promised you'd come back, but there's nothing," Chisholm whispered. Then one night, while the whole house slept through a loud thunderstorm, the living room mirror broke by itself, and a sentence appeared in red letters on the wall. "The ritual is not over." Chisholm fell to her knees. She understood now. Ikenna was only a small part, a link in the chain. 2 days later, a strange man knocked on her door. He spoke slowly in a deep voice. "Miss Chisholm, I am here on behalf of the Shadow Circle." "What?" "A secret group. Ikenna belonged to us. We know what he did to your sister. We know your sister came back." Chisholm watched him without moving. "What do you want?" "One doesn't return from the land of the dead without paying a price." He pulled an envelope from his jacket. "Your sister came back, even for a short time. But this has opened a crack, and this world must pay." "What do you want?" Chisholm asked again. "You, your body, your will. You are her twin, her other half. You are the only one that still keeps her here. You can open the crack bigger or close it. And if I refuse?" The man smiled. "Then you will lose her forever, and you will die too." She opened the envelope. Inside was an address. "Red Circle, 12th floor, Twin Towers, 3 a.m. Only one chance. Come alone." And he disappeared in the rain. That night, Chisholm had a dream. She was standing on the bank of a black river. A heavy fog floated on the water. On the other side stood Adaobi. "Don't come, Chisholm. They're all lying to you. It's a trap," she said in a loud voice. "But they say I can save you." "You can only save what was given up willingly, but me, they took me without asking, with my name, my heart, my blood. You can't fix anything without paying a price." "But then what do I do?" "Do what no soul has yet dared to do. Find the other book, the Book of Justice. It alone can break the old promises." Chisholm wanted to cross the river, but the water burned her. Adaobi stepped back, her eyes getting darker. "They're coming. Wake up." And when she woke up, the ceiling of her room was covered with strange red marks. Someone or something had come in during the night, and the countdown had begun. Chisholm woke with a jump. Her heart was beating so hard, it felt like it was going to break in her chest. The ceiling of her room was covered with red symbols, but there was no sound, no movement. The silence was complete, and yet she wasn't alone. She stood up slowly, breathless, and grabbed the flashlight. Every step on the marble floor seemed to make the whole room shake. The symbols looked like small rivers of blood flowing down the wall, as if the wall were crying blood. Then she heard a voice, not loud at all, a whisper right inside her head. "You want the truth? Then enter the forbidden memory." She turned. The mirror in the room was shaking, and her own face had disappeared. Instead, she saw Adaobi in her wedding dress, her eyes closed, her face white, standing in an old library, a place Chisholm did not know but felt she remembered because she had dreamed of it since she was little. At 4:23 in the morning, Chisholm took a taxi to a part of the city, but not just any street. She went to the end of a dead-end street, where the buildings looked like they had been left empty for years. There, between two old buildings, was a black door with no doorbell. But it opened by itself when she arrived. The smell that came out was not normal. She walked inside and went down for more than 15 minutes. Staircase after staircase, step after step. No sound, no wind, only the beating of her heart. Then she arrived in the library. Tall shelves, books tied in leather. Some looked like they were made of human skin, names that could not be read, and in the center a single book resting on a black stone table with words written in old language. The Book of Justice, the one Adaobi had spoken of. But as soon as Chisholm laid her hand on the book, everything went dark. She opened her eyes in a place that was no longer the city. A blood-red sky, souls floating around, shadows holding onto her clothes, faraway cries. And in the distance, a big chair, and sitting on it was Ikenna. But he was different now, with dark power around him. "Welcome to the Chamber of the Lost Souls," said one of the shadow people. "You have touched the book. Now you must make a choice." Chisholm stepped back, shaking. "I want my sister, and I want the truth." "The truth is, Adaobi was never meant to be born. She is the result of an old promise made before you were even born. Your father is not who you think he is. He was one of us." Chisholm fell to her knees. "That's impossible. That's why your blood is pure. That's why only you can save or destroy your sister's soul." She opened the book. Then words appeared in flames. "One soul for another, a life in exchange for a name. If you want to break the chain, then sign with your own blood." Chisholm, her hand shaking, picked up a small knife lying beside the book and cut her finger. She signed. At that moment, the world seemed to shake. A scream tore through the red sky. The ground opened beneath her, souls flew up, and a bright light came out. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. Back home. The sun was shining. It came through the curtains, but her finger was still bleeding. And in the corner of her room, sitting on a chair, was Adaobi, alive in a black dress with a serious look. "You signed, Chisholm. You brought me back, but at what cost?" Chisholm felt a burning feeling on her back. She ran to the mirror and saw a mark tattooed between her shoulder blades, the same mark as the chair where Ikenna sat. She had become, without knowing, the keeper of an old power, a power that would now bring darkness upon the city. The hours passed. Adaobi remained silent, lying on the hospital bed, her eyes empty. Her sister Chisholm never left her side. She knew that it wasn't all over yet. She could feel it. Every night, the room grew colder. Every night, Adaobi spoke words she didn't understand, old names, strange sounds. The doctor had told her, her heart is working, her brain too. But it's as if she isn't there anymore. But Chisholm knew, her sister was fighting. Adaobi was walking barefoot, alone in the darkness, and that voice again. "You weren't supposed to come back, Adaobi." She turned around. It was the old woman from the hotel hallway. "Why did you call me?" Adaobi asked. "No, you're the one who held on tight. You refused to let go. Why me? Why Ikenna? Why this marriage, this promise, this pain?" The old woman smiled sadly. Because you were chosen long ago, your father made a deal. He promised his first daughter for wealth. But twins were born. You and Chisholm. The darkness didn't know which one to take, so it waited. And Ikenna was sent to finish what your father started. Adaobi felt her heart break. My father? Chief Amadi, yes. He sold you before you were even born. Chisholm fell asleep on a chair. When morning came, soft light came through the curtains. Then she heard it. I'm back. Chisholm jumped up, tears falling. She held her sister in her arms. I found you. But we still need to talk about everything, Adaobi said. 1 month later, in a high-security prison, Ikenna, caught after his escape, waited for his trial. He no longer looked the same. Grey hair, a wild look in his eyes. He talked to himself, chained. But that day, Adaobi entered. He looked up. You're alive, he whispered. I'm more than alive, Ikenna. I'm free. He fell to his knees, trying to speak. You killed me for money, and you lost everything. But I gained something. What? My voice. 1 year later, Adaobi created the Broken Chains Foundation. It welcomed women who were victims of ritual harm, spiritual violence, and evil family secrets. A documentary was made about her story, and a book too. And a truth was spreading everywhere in the city. Even if your name is written for you to die, you can still write your own ending. One evening, Adaobi and Chisholm stood on the foundation's rooftop. The moon was high, the wind warm, and a soft voice was heard, carried on the breeze. Thank you for breaking the chain. Now others can live. Adaobi closed her eyes and smiled. If you like this story, subscribe and leave a comment of encouragement to support us. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.